Well, we managed to make it to Game 7 before I had to say this, but it's time. What are the rules? Avs lose to the Utah Mammoth 4-3 in overtime. For starters, the Avs did not lose this game because of a stupid call. They lost this game because their puck management was atrocious for the entire night. In many ways, they were lucky to have gotten a point out of this game at all, so they might want to count their blessings in some ways, because their play throughout the night was not horrible. There were plenty of times where they were working hard and doing a lot of the right things, but they just couldn't handle a puck to save their lives. It resulted in not only terrible turnovers, which led to goals the other way, but a lot of dead plays because the Avs simply lost the puck, and that was the end of it. It was present through all three periods and overtime, so for the team-wide conversation at the very least, it never really got better, and that's disappointing. You want the Avs to play better than that. We've seen them play better than that for pretty much every game this season. I would say this is probably the worst game of the season, at least when it comes to their mechanical hockey. And it wasn't horrible or anything. They kept up with Utah. Shots were at a similar pace. They technically outpossessed Utah in the game, even if some of that is them chasing a significant portion of it. So I don't believe this is some terrible game that the Avs played, but there were glaring issues with it. Not as much in the first period, though, and the Avs' depth did do some good scoring in this game despite the puck management issues. It is ultimately the defense that scores the first goal, though. Dumped in puck from your fourth line here. Bardakov dumps it in and goes and gets it himself. That's just good hard work from a rookie in the NHL. You love to see it. It creates chaos. It comes to Parker Kelly, who finds just enough space to get this out of danger and up high to Cale Makar. That's good fourth line play. You're not going to score a ton of goals this way, but you will score some, and Makar finds enough space to get a shot off. Not Makar's best, but it's enough to just get through, flicking, nicking, whatever you want to call it, off of the first forward defending him. The bounce fools Vejmelka, and it's in the net. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but Cale Makar is both, so yeah, that's how the Avs get their only lead of this game. Despite the sloppiness, the first was actually pretty fun. Pretty good up and down hockey, back and forth both ways. Even if you would like the Avs to clean it up a little bit, it didn't stop them from pushing the offense in a pretty even period, and with some good saves from Wedgwood, you keep Utah off the board and you win period 1. And then we have period 2. Gabe Landeskog scores a goal. It should be 2-0 Avs, but the play is challenged for offside and ultimately deemed to be offside. Now I'm going to show you the play here, and we can talk about a couple of things. There is the puck, clearly in the neutral zone, Val Nichushkin challenging, and the puck is pushed back into the defensive zone. Let me ask you a question before anything else. Did Val Nichushkin touch that puck? I think we can pretty clearly answer no, but maybe someone has an angle that I haven't seen. Here is the official verbiage from the NHL on overturning this and calling it an offside. Val Nichushkin's actions forced the Utah player to pull the puck back into his own end, and that's why the goal was called off. I'm sorry, but what? Unless Val Nichushkin suddenly learned mind control, I'm not sure how Val Nichushkin's actions affected the puck movement in that play. Did the Utah player mishandle the puck? Maybe. I think that's fair to say. And Nichushkin is allowed to challenge him. He's allowed to step up into that play and skate at a opposing player. This is happening in the neutral zone, not in the offensive zone, where, to be fair, Nathan MacKinnon was offside on this play. He hadn't stepped on the bench yet. That part is true. But that puck, to me, is pretty clearly moved back into its own zone by a defending player, which negates offsides. That is the rules of the NHL. By the NHL's rule book, I don't see a world where this goal should not have counted. That is pretty clearly a defensive player moving the puck back into his own zone, even if it's a mistake and he unwillingly did so. Nichushkin does not touch that puck at all. And there was follow-up commentary on Twitter and otherwise where they are claiming that Nichushkin had stick-on-stick contact with the opposing player, and that might happen after the puck is played, but there is clearly no effect on the puck made by Nichushkin's contact, if there even is any, which, look, they got this call wrong. I think most people would agree, unless you're a Utah Mammoth fan, think you can probably agree that they got this call wrong by their own rule book. And for the refs to get it wrong in the moment would be one thing. Play happens fast, crazy stuff happens. But this was challenged. This went to the NHL War Room and was looked at by multiple people that all seemingly don't understand the rules of the league that they work for. And it would be somewhat understandable if this was a one-off event that almost never happens in the NHL. But every year we have multiple calls that everyone stares at around the league and goes, yes, that is clearly wrong. They got it wrong. What is happening? It's incredibly disappointing to have exciting plays happen and get called back in the first place, even when the call is correct. For the call to be wrong, and then for them to defend it with some straight up made up stuff that does not align with their own rules. I'm done talking about it because the Avs may have still lost or won the game regardless of this call. It doesn't matter. We move on. It does certainly affect the Avs' momentum though. Kind of crushes them and has Utah pushing back the other way. Utah would then follow up, score another disallowed goal. This one was pretty clear interference on the Utah player. They didn't even try to challenge it, so they remained 1-0 at that point, but the Avs just struggled to get themselves back into the game. A bad penalty in the offensive zone from the Avs is what would ultimately get Utah on the board for real. On the PK, the Avs are pinning a puck along the boards here that they ultimately lose the battle, and Utah is able to maintain possession in the offensive zone. They were able to work it around, and the Avs get a little bit discombobulated here. Kelly was expecting Manson to step up and be the high forward, but Manson is a defenseman, so he was trying to circle back and hoping a forward step up in this place. It lasts just long enough that both of them kind of get caught together, and now all of a sudden you're not really covering much of anything. Both of your right side players in Drury and Taves are coming out of the corner, so they're not covering much. These two are covering essentially nothing in the middle of the ice. They get caught up. Kelly ultimately ends up in no man's land, and Manson's never going to be able to get back to his man on this side. Despite that, the initial save gets made, but it's just caused complete chaos in the Avs structure, and that leads to a rebound, which not a great rebound from Wedgwood here, but that rebound comes through and you don't have multiple Avs ready to make plays. Taves does get a whack at it, but it's a bouncing puck and he misses, and the Avs are just dead from there. I'm not that upset with this one. Yes, the PK gets jumbled up and it's a bit rough, but penalty kills are supposed to get scored on sometimes, and the Avs has been really good through the first 7 games of the season, so stuff happens. You would love to avoid the bad penalty, but the Avs only took 2 penalties in this game. It really wasn't that bad, just a situation in hockey that you have to go through and find ways to be better than. That I can live with. I can live with a whole lot less the second goal the Avs give up about 3 minutes later. This should be a nothing play. Malinsky goes back, collects a puck in his own zone, flicks it across to Solovyov. The Avs are in full possession here, nothing really dangerous. Solovyov tries to go back to Malinsky in his own zone. It kicks off the back wall, and it's just a miscommunication or a misread. Solovyov was looking to go deep into behind his own net. Malinsky was coming quickly in behind the net, expecting a simple drop. That causes a lost puck. They lose possession, and then chaos ensues from here. The defense from the actual defenders isn't that bad. You see some decent coverage. The back check is a little bit late, and a fanned play creates more chaos for Colorado. Malinsky ends up on the left side of this play just because both defensemen were committed. He's been playing on the right with Solovyov. But there's no head check. There's no backside look to see if there's a player coming, and that ultimately leaves Malinsky just out of position. He looks like he even gets a piece of that maybe, but it slips through, and Wedgwood has no chance there. The crazy part is that is one of the less egregious puck management turnovers the Avs had in this game. They're lucky a handful more pucks didn't end up in the back of their net off of terrible turnovers. It's frustrating because you watch the players make the same mistakes over and over throughout this game, and some of that is the Avs didn't have it tonight. They just weren't playing anywhere near their best, at least when it came to managing the puck. You don't have to change the way you play. You don't have to change the decisions you're making. It's just execute better. The Avs get smoked for most of the second period. Utah outshoots them 15-7. They don't really generate a lot of dangerous chances outside of the goal they had that didn't count. And it was just overall not very good hockey. Although a lot of this game was not very good hockey from both teams at times, to be honest. So the Avs go into the third trailing, and I will give the Avs credit. They still haven't trailed by more than 1 goal ever in this season. They did have punchback, even if it was a gross game, even if some of the turnover issues did continue through the third period. They put their heads down and they went to work, and it's that hardworking third line that gets rewarded early in the third. More hard work. It's what's getting it done for the Avs alongside with some good bounces. A dumped in, deflected in puck goes on net. They opt to play it, and the third line just gets after it. Ross Colton comes in, puts on the pressure, forces a bad reverse, and allows the Avs to get possession in their own zone. You can see some pretty good work with the head check here, too. That is smart hockey. Understand where your teammates are. Jack Drury fires it across, hopes for the best for it in the corner, but it works out. Colton then stops with the fanciness. Why try to do something crazy when you can just put a puck to the net? He throws a puck that doesn't go on. You can see it streaking across there. Can I find my mouse? Where is it? There we go. You can see the puck streaking across here. It ends up kicking off of the defenseman's skate, and it comes right out to Jack Drury, who puts himself in the spot to be ready. This isn't a crazy good play or anything, but if he's being lazy sitting at the top of the dot, this play doesn't happen. Instead, it's an open net for him to put the puck into. Earn pucks, put pucks to net. Good things will happen. Sometimes hockey's not that complicated. 2-2, and you feel like the Avs get to wash away that second period a little bit and get stuck in the third. Or you could turn another puck over and be trailing again 4 minutes later. Utah has dumped this puck in. It's coming around to Burns, who's going to reverse it back up the other wall. All of this is fine. I don't really have a big issue with that. Leckie is sitting here, and the Avs are trying to run their standard execute breakout, where Leckie pitches this puck to the middle, McKinnon skates into it, and they are off to the races. The problem is, this gets read clean, and also a bit misplayed by Leckie, if we're honest. It ends up being a turnover off of Leckie's stick either way, and Sergachev is able to step in and just fire a puck. Looks like Wedgwood gets off of his angle on the near side just a little bit, and not that it isn't a great shot, it is, but he leaves enough room up high on the near side that he gets beat. Obviously, it's a bad read from Leckie to just give the puck away like that along the wall, and it's probably a save Wedgwood is going to want back. It is what it is. I thought Wedgwood was fine tonight. He stopped 30 of 33 shots in regulation, so was well over that 900 mark. For a backup goalie, you really are fine with that. You needed the Avs to lock things in and play a little better in front of him in this one. And as the third period went on, Utah just kind of stopped playing offense. They went into that one goal protect turtle. Every hockey fan knows, don't do that. If you're up 3, sure, whatever, fine. But a 1-goal game, you cannot just give up on the offensive side of the puck. It's going to give the other team momentum, and they're going to push back. That's exactly what happens. And it takes a while, but the Avs top line finally gets a goal. After a night of fumbling the puck, Necas is still going to wind this one up and go for it himself. He's able to get the red line, goes for a dump-in. It isn't a dump-in. It ends up hitting off of the defender and kicking back out, but a fortunate bounce as it comes right back to Marty, who picks that puck back up, goes to a crazy angle, and just puts a perfect shot. Same way Wedgwood left a little bit too much room. Vejmelka didn't leave a whole lot, but right behind his head, there's just enough room for Marty to place a puck, and the Avs tie it. Now, I'm not going to champion Marty Necas in this game. He was really bad through the first 2 periods, arguably the worst offender of the turnovers on the entire team. But where I will give Necas credit is working through it. In that third period, he recognized he was having a pretty bad game with the puck and started simplifying his game a little bit. He also stuck with it. He did not get down. He did not quit on himself, and that's what allows that play to happen. It's an unbelievably good shot off of a bit of a broken play, but that's all it takes, and the Avs are able to tie it and at least get a point out of this game. Hockey is dumb all the time, but for whatever reason when the Avs play Utah, it tends to be extra dumb. So some dumb stuff going their way to get a point, you'll take those. Overtime was expected, but disappointing. I don't have it in the highlight, but the whole reason the Avs get scored on is because Nathan MacKinnon just straight up turns a puck over for no reason in the neutral zone. And then this happens. After the MacKinnon turnover, Utah is controlling the play in their own zone. Necas steps up to forecheck, and MacKinnon jumps in as well. Now, I don't mind a good forecheck. You can put pressure on teams and make them pay with a well-executed one. My problem is, as Utah gets through the breakout, both MacKinnon and Necas get caught. At worst, they're even with their players. In McKinnon's case, even a little bit ahead of their player at this point. And they both just lose the race up the ice. Sure, it's the end of a 30-second shift in overtime. They've played a lot. Maybe they're tired. But if you can't keep up with that race, why are you out there in 3-on-3? You're just lighting your team on fire by losing these foot races. It leaves Makar in an impossible 2-on-1. He tries to take the pass, does get beat. maybe you'd love a perfect play from Makar there, but look at this, and look at how far Necas is away from being able to defend this by getting cooked up the ice. And MacKinnon is even worse. That's just horrible defense from two guys that you know aren't very good at defending, and it costs you. It's 3-on-3, so I don't care that much. Yes, it's a bad play from MacKinnon. It's a bad back check from MacKinnon and Necas. Bad stuff happens in 3-on-3. That isn't real hockey, so I'm not too worried about it. I still think you shouldn't put MacKinnon and Necas together in overtime, though. And we've learned this lesson year after year with the Avs. When you put your two best offensive forwards who don't really play defense very well together in overtime, you're going to lose if they lose the puck. That's just what's going to happen, and it's exactly what happened tonight. If they had no other options, I'd say fine, but you have quality wingers up and down this lineup. You can put Nichushkin with MacKinnon. You can run a second unit of Nelson and Necas together. You can get these guys out there in a safer way than just playing full YOLO offense, and then if Nathan MacKinnon does do something stupid, it's not just an auto loss. It's hard for me to be very concerned about this game, though. Yes, the Avs have to play better than that. If they have that turnover issue against Carolina on Thursday, they're going to get blown out. I promise you that. But for the majority of their games this season, this hasn't been a recurring problem. There's been some sloppy ones, there have been some bad games, but they've also played some really good games through the start of this season. And we're 7 games into the season, and we're talking about the Avs' worst game of the season being an overtime loss. They still haven't lost in regulation. It's a pretty darn good team. Colorado is setting a high standard here, but they do have to continue to live up to it. I don't want to see another game like this. Rebounds from losses are important, and if the Avs do that, this is not going to be a game anyone thinks about anymore. That is the end of this game video review. Thank you for watching. I am Rudo, and hockey is fun even when it's ugly.